Port Malice could be seen from the shores of the Great Desert. Darth and his Shadow Company had built the fortress on an island, making it harder for the United Cities and their enemies to approach. Darth stood overlooking his men as they turned stone into materials and iron into plates. "Put your backs into it, men," Darth yelled. "We've got no time to lose." Reacted Wing took a break from his work to rest his aching hands. In the distance, Reacted Wing could see Darth and Captain Diomedes questioning Lady Khanna. Darth had moved her to the center of Port Malice where the company could see her. He wanted to make an example of her to the other prisoners with the hope to get them to reveal details about the United Cities. She had been beaten and starved for days. Without acid protection, the acid rain would slowly melt her skin away. It was a cruel punishment, one no one should have to endure. "What are their defenses like?" Darth boomed, slapping Lady Khanna across the face. The force from the slap caused Lady Khanna's lip to start bleeding. "How dare you strike a noble lady? You will hang for this!" Lady Khanna threatened. "My father will destroy your pathetic band of rabble. The whole weight of the United Cities will descend upon you." Darth sneered. "Oh yes, I have no doubt in my mind that Lord Tengu is assessing his options at this very moment. Perhaps I should send him back a few of your fingers as a warning not to cross the Shadow Company." Reacted Wing watched as Darth motioned for Captain Diomedes to follow him towards the prison where the rest of the prisoners they took from Port South were being held captive. It was only a matter of time before someone broke their silence and revealed information to help further the Shadow Company's assault on United Cities territory. When Darth and Captain Diomedes were gone, Reacted Wing approached Lady Khanna. "You've got some spirit, I'll give you that," Reacted Wing asserted. Raising his flask, Reacted Wing offered her some water. "Here, drink this." Lady Khanna sipped from the flask without hesitation, choking as the water gushed out from her mouth, dripping down onto her neck. After a few more gulps, Lady Khanna looked at Reacted Wing with a different tone. "You're not like the others. Why are you helping me?" "Not everyone here is a ruthless criminal," Reacted Wing sighed. "We had a leader before he abandoned us and murdered the Hive Queen." Reacted Wing shrugged his shoulders. "At least that's what Darth said anyway. Who really knows the truth? Most of us didn't have a choice. It was either follow the new leader or die. I don't know about you, but I enjoy living." Reacted Wing smiled, eyeing Lady Khanna up and down. "Truth be told, if I didn't agree to follow Darth, then I would have missed a chance to see what real beauty looks like." Lady Khanna laughed. "I'm sure that line works on women where you come from, but I've had suitors offer their undying love to me since I was old enough to marry." Lady Khanna continued. "So you see, words are like feathers floating in the wind. They carry no weight." Looking around, Lady Khanna whispered, "Let me give you a little secret. What matters to someone like me is what a man does, not what he says." Reacted Wing nodded. "Thanks for the chat and the advice. It's nice to talk to someone other than a bunch of hardasses." Before leaving, Reacted Wing spoke once more. "You know, you don't strike me as someone who's eager to return home. Perhaps you're tired of being paraded around Port South, forced to do what you're told by your father. You and I aren't that much different. I'm just as much a prisoner here as you are." Lady Khanna watched as Reacted Wing walked back towards the camp. She played back their conversation in her head. Perhaps he was right. Perhaps they both were prisoners in this hell. Apple and her companions made their way back to the Flotsam safe house empty-handed after their hunting expedition proved fruitless. "Whose idea was it to go hunting at night?" Blessed asked. "We can barely see 5 feet in front of us." Bartok grinded his teeth as if he was pretending to bite into an imaginary dinner. "What I wouldn't give for a nice garu steak with..." Apple cut him off. "Shh! Quiet! I hear voices up ahead." Apple and her companions silently crept towards the voices in the distance. A large group of paladins and bounty hunters could be seen standing in front of the Flotsam safe house. Godfrey called to his men, "Search the area and look for any clues as to where they might have gone. The Holy Lord Phoenix has tasked us with purging these heretics. They will not escape his wrath." Waving to the bounty hunters in front of him, Godfrey shook his head. "We didn't pay you to stand there. Find out where they've gone." A worried look crossed Amistein's face. "We need to get out of here, before we're discovered." Apple nodded and motioned with her hands for them to creep back into the shadows. The Floodlands was a dangerous place, full of security spiders and unfriendly skeletons. Apple and her companions had traveled through the night to put some distance between them and the paladins who were hot on their trail. "I need to catch my breath," Bless said, breathing heavy. Apple agreed. "Let's rest here a moment while we plan our next move." Bartok chimed in. "Whatever it is, I hope it involves me getting a new outfit. I'm gonna catch a cold." Looking over their shoulders to make sure no one was behind them, Amistine refocused her attention to the group. "It's only a matter of time before they catch up to us." Apple pondered Amistine's words. "Our allies, the Flotsam ninjas, may be able to help us with our little paladin problem. I hate to bring enemies to Maul's doorstep, but what other choice do we have?" Nodding in agreement, Apple and her companions continued their journey north. As the sun came up the next morning, Apple and her companions could see the walls of the Flotsam Hideout in the distance. The hidden forest was densely populated with trees, making it easy to hide from prying eyes. "I thought we'd never make it through the Floodlands, but here we are," Bartok smiled. "It will be nice to rest in a comfortable bed. Maybe we'll even find a few distractions to keep us occupied, eh, Blessed?" Blessed grinned. "Flotsam women. You'd have an easier time convincing a goat to bed you." The laughter from Apple and Amistine echoed through the forest as the group made their way down the hill. Maul waved her hand at Apple and her companions as if she had more pressing matters to attend to. "You put us all at risk by coming here," Maul snapped. "We're fighting a war on two fronts. The cannibals become bolder every day, moving further into our territory. Now you tell me that you're being hunted by the Holy Nation, and you've led them straight to us." A surprised look swept over Apple's face. "We didn't have much choice." "No, I suppose not," Maul acknowledged. "We are grateful for what your small group has accomplished at Rebirth. Taking the fight to the Holy Nation and freeing the slaves there took a lot of courage." Maul continued. "Still, we can't move against the Holy Nation until we stop the cannibal threat that's plaguing our land. Help us take out the men hunting us, and we'll help you defeat the cannibals once and for all. Then together we can take the fight to the Holy Nation," Apple suggested. "Do we have a deal?" Maul smirked and shook Apple's hand. "You've got a deal, but I can only spare one squad." Taking out a folded piece of paper from her pocket, Maul handed it to Apple. "Give this note to any of my squads, and they will help you." As Apple and her companions said their farewells, Maul spoke once more. "I assume, since you haven't spoke a word of it, that you don't know about the rest of your clan." Apple's eyebrows raised in confusion. "What about them?" Maul sighed. "From what we've heard, the rest of your clan has disbanded. There are disturbing reports that your leader has murdered the Western Hive Queen." "That's impossible," Apple declared. "There must be some sort of explanation." Maul went on. "We've also heard reports of a group calling themselves the Shadow Company, raiding in United City's territory. These are dark times, and enemies are all around us." After gaining back their composure from the news, Apple and her companions said their farewells to Maul and made their way out of the headquarters. The Flotsam Hideout was busy with activity. Warriors practiced their sword fighting while others patrolled the area. The war between the cannibals and the Holy Nation had everyone on edge. "Well, that went fairly well, don't you think?" Bartok asked. Amistine ignored Bartok. "Maul is right. We should have never come here. We need to take out those hunting us, and fast." Bless put his hand on his sister's shoulder. "Don't worry, sister. We will. I'm more concerned about Aviticus and the rest of the clan. How could this have happened?" Apple was still in shock from the news. Aviticus wouldn't murder his queen. "I don't believe that for a second." Bless nodded in agreement. "Well, whatever happened, we can't do anything about it now. We've just pledged our support to Flotsam," Amistine said. The members of the Dragon Clan could be anywhere, Bless acknowledged. We have our own war to fight, and perhaps someday our paths will cross with them again. Amistine agreed. Let's not forget about Lady Sharky and Magnus. Both of them risked their lives for us. We need to find them and plan a rescue. You know they would do the same for us. Clenching her fists together, Apple assured the group, we will find them, no matter how long it takes. Apple and her companions met at the entrance to the village after each of them finished their last-minute preparations. Bless looked around. Where's Bartok? Amistine and Apple shrugged their shoulders. Tugging at his new jacket, Bartok made his way to the group. Ah, that's much better, Bartok said, showing a sign of relief. If I'm going to die, at least I'll be wearing something respectable. Last time I checked, we were broke, Bless replied. How did you afford new gear? Bartok bragged about his recent excursion. You'd be surprised how lonely the women are here. She even paid me for my services. Can you believe that? Laughing, Bartok slapped Bless on the shoulder and began giving him pointers on how to talk to women. Apple and Amistine looked at each other and rolled their eyes. Bringing her attention back to the men, Apple waved her hands at them. Are you two done discussing dating tips? We have more important things to do. Let's move out. As the group prepared to head out, Apple directed her attention to Bartok. And don't even think about trying your advances on me, unless you want a dagger in your gut. Bartok gulped. I wouldn't dream of it. Deep within Okran's Valley, a lone tower stood housing a light detail of guards. Screams could be heard from within as they echoed throughout the canyon. The Lord Inquisitor's knife pierced into Magnus's side. Unable to contain himself, Magnus shrieked in pain. My, you're a feisty specimen. The Lord Inquisitor licked his lips. It will be an exciting challenge to break you. Magnus showed a sign of relief as the Lord Inquisitor pulled the knife out of his flesh. There is so much beauty beneath the skin, and I have all the time in the world to explore it. Quick as a snake, the Lord Inquisitor plunged his knife into Magnus's leg. Magnus screamed. You will tell me where your friends are hiding. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but before you take your last breath, you will tell me what I want to know. A lone building stood near the shore. The light from 2 torches could be seen from a distance, indicating someone was home. Jaeger had just finished his dinner and was settling in for the night. His aching bones were tired from all of the traveling he had done recently. Over the past few days, Jaeger spent his time building cages to accompany his new guests. I should check to see if she's awake, Jaeger thought to himself. Jaeger's aching bones sent signals up his spine as he started to walk down the hallway. The female Shek warrior that Jaeger resurrected on his journey home was awake, waiting for him. Let me out of here, Yeflin threatened. I will hack you to pieces if you don't. Jaeger waved his hands, trying to calm the woman. I mean you no harm. My name is Jaeger, and I am the one who brought you back to life. Yeflin's anger continued. Celine, I will rip her bones from her body. The cage rattled as Yeflin shook it harder. Let me out of here, now! I must kill. I must destroy something. Someone. Jaeger nodded. That feeling is the bloodlust calling out to you. If you do not suppress your urges on a regular basis, you will die. Yeflin asked, I have so much anger, so much hatred. Why? It's a temporary side effect, Jaeger replied. Normalcy will return as you appease your urges. The longer you go without quelling your bloodlust, the more simple-minded and dangerous you become. Yeflin began punching the cage, trying to escape captivity. The rage was eating at her from the inside. I must kill someone! You! Yes, you! No,
No, you helped me. But someone, yes, someone. I must hack them to pieces. I must.
Do not worry, Jaeger assured Yeflin. I have exactly what you need. The lights from the tech hunter city of Mourn could be seen in the distance as Mr. Wolf made his way through the bone fields. It was a city that was built upon ruins from a lost civilization. The tech hunters valued lost lore above all else, and built a city around a large dome structure that had remained for all of these years. When the tech hunters explored the structure, those that entered were met with a terrible fate. Unable to extract the lore hiding within the structure, the tech hunters built high walls around it to protect the secrets within. A large offer of cats remained open for whoever could eliminate the threat from the structure. Mr. Wolf did not care about money. He only cared about one thing: being the most powerful man in the world. Whatever threat remained in the structure, Mr. Wolf would defeat it, or die trying. Mr. Wolf examined the lock on the entrance to the massive structure. This is going to take a while, Mr. Wolf thought to himself. As the sun began to rise the next morning, Mr. Wolf heard a click, indicating that he had picked the lock. The bottom floor of the structure was in ruins. Tables, chairs, and books lay scattered around the floor. Mr. Wolf examined the area, looking for anything that might be of use to him. Useless junk, Mr. Wolf muttered to himself. Finding nothing of use, Mr. Wolf headed upstairs. Training dummies lay scattered throughout the second floor, no doubt used to train those who called this place home. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed throughout the structure. Loud footsteps could be heard as they approached Mr. Wolf from behind. Grinning, Mr. Wolf turned to face the threat. It was a great white gorilla, a highly dangerous and immensely powerful creature. The gorilla roared once more as it lunged towards Mr. Wolf, swinging left and then right with its giant claws. Mr. Wolf dodged out of the way, but was unable to keep the gorilla from slicing him on the shoulder. Mr. Wolf regained his composure and fought back, punching into the gorilla's hide. The strike seemed to anger the creature more than harm it. Another frenzy of swings came at him, striking him across the chest, making it hard for Mr. Wolf to breathe. The battle continued with Mr. Wolf and the creature exchanging blows with one another. Seeing an opening, Mr. Wolf jump-kicked the gorilla's face. A quick strike from the gorilla sent Mr. Wolf flying across the room and onto the ground. The gorilla's roar was long and loud as it stood over its defeated opponent. Losing interest, the gorilla walked away to lick its wounds. Whiteness turned to color as Mr. Wolf regained consciousness. The creature was powerful, there was no doubt about it. Mr. Wolf managed to pick himself up and held his head with one hand. "I'm not dead yet, beast!" Mr. Wolf taunted the creature. The gorilla roared and charged forward. The battle continued. Mr. Wolf attempted another jump kick, this time managing to hit the gorilla's eye, making it harder for him to see. The gorilla swung wildly, smacking Mr. Wolf around as he tried to dodge out of the way. Noticing an opening after the gorilla's swings, Mr. Wolf used that to his advantage to launch multiple jump kicks in a row, severely wounding the creature. Blood poured through the wounds in the gorilla's hide where Mr. Wolf's robotic arms had connected. The dual industrial lifter arms made Mr. Wolf's punches painful. A human would have been punched to pieces by now. This creature was truly the toughest opponent Mr. Wolf had fought. This is what he lived for, the thrill of going toe-to-toe with the strongest of enemies. It was his destiny to be the most powerful man in the world. "This is the end for you, beast!" Mr. Wolf yelled. Charging up one last attack, Mr. Wolf spun 360 degrees to deliver his most powerful kick. The tornado kick struck the creature in the head, killing it. Mr. Wolf was breathing heavy as he stood over the great white gorilla's corpse. The battle took its toll on him, but he felt as if he was becoming stronger. Soon, there would be nothing in this land that could challenge him. Deep within the Cannibal Plains, Night Fury and her companions slowly crept their way to the top of a hill overlooking the town of Deadcat, the cannibal capital. The group had spent many nights and days sneaking their way through the dangerous territory to reach their intended target, the Cannibal Grand Wizard, who is worth a bounty of 40,000 cats. Looks like we're in the right place, Cryo Assassin said. Peering over the ledge below, he realized they would have to find another way down. We're not going to be able to climb down from here, Cryo Assassin confirmed. We'll have to come at them from the west. Cryo Assassin looked over to Vainpire, who was pounding his fists. You alright, Vainpire? Vainpire nodded. Just ready for more payback. I will never forgive these brutes for what they did to my wife. Cryo Assassin brought his fist to his heart to make a promise. Your wife will soon rest, knowing that we hit them where it hurts the most. Their leader will meet justice. I promise. Night Fury motioned with her hands. See that hut at the end of the town, with the 2 guards? That must be where the Grand Wizard is located. Night Fury continued. Let's wait for nightfall and approach the camp from the west while they're sleeping. Campfires burned throughout the city of Deadcat. Cannibals lay scattered by their fires, turning in to sleep after a day of feasting. Night Fury and her companions crept their way closer to the city where they could plan their attack. Looks like they are turning in for the night, Cryo Assassin informed his companions. Good, Night Fury nodded. I think we should use our crossbows from a distance and set up a firing line between us and them. Once we take out the cannibals at the camps, we can work our way towards the center. Agreed? Cryo Assassin suggested a more stealthy approach, but ultimately agreed on Night Fury's plan along with Vainpire. The trio moved towards the first cannibal camp on the outskirts of the city and prepared their crossbows to fire. Night Fury aimed her crossbow at her target and gave the command to fire. Ready? Aim. Fire! The bolts left their crossbows and flew to their targets, wounding the unsuspecting cannibals. Furious, the cannibals screamed and charged towards the trio. Vainpire positioned himself in front of Night Fury to shield her from the cannibals charging towards her. Blocking their attacks, Vainpire went on the assault, cutting the cannibals down where they stood, while more bolts from Night Fury's crossbow pierced them. The city of Deadcat was fully awake as the trio approached, using their crossbows to their advantage. Dozens of cannibals came charging at them, as if they were ready for their next meal. Night Fury and her companions let out their battle cries as they drew their blades to engage the cannibals head-on. Vainpire was on the offensive, slicing at the cannibals to his front and back. "This is for my wife!" Vainpire shouted. Cryo Assassin roared as the cannibal he struck went down. "Come on, you brutes! My blade is hungry for blood!" Night Fury led a group of cannibals further away from her friends where she could pick them apart. The cannibals had no formal training in sword fighting, which made their attacks sloppy and effortless. A flurry of strikes came towards her. Dodging out of the way, Night Fury could hear the sound of air from the blades as they missed their mark. Night Fury went on the offensive, redirecting her blade from a defensive posture. Her opponents screamed as she sliced at their necks, mortally wounding them in the process. Cryo Assassin charged forward towards the last 2 assailants to make his way towards Vainpire, who needed help. Both wounded, the assailants could barely hold their cleavers above their heads to strike. Cryo Assassin stabbed both of them in the chest, watching them clutch the hole where his sword entered their body as they fell to the ground. When the battle was over, Night Fury and her companions stood over the corpses of the cannibals, victorious. Their blood-covered faces smiled down upon the dead. The companions looked over their wounds to make sure none of them were badly injured. "Just a few scrapes, nothing serious," Cryo Assassin said. Vainpire noticed the cannibal attempting to crawl away. "Where do you think you're going?" Vainpire asked. Taking a bolt from his quiver, Vainpire loaded up his crossbow and fired. The bolt pierced the cannibal in the stomach, killing him. The trio positioned themselves outside of the Grand Wizard's hut. "Looks like the Grand Wizard is asleep," Cryo Assassin acknowledged. "How is that possible?" Night Fury asked. "You would think he'd have woken up with the battle going on outside." "The cannibals fight amongst themselves all the time," Vainpire said. "Somehow, I'm not surprised." Night Fury nodded. "Either way, let's finish this." The trio crept silently up the stairs that led to the Grand Wizard's hut. Inside the hut, Night Fury and her companions positioned themselves around the Grand Wizard and his chieftains. Counting to 3 in their heads, the trio attacked, hoping to catch them by surprise.
Tasty meat,
The Grand Wizard hissed.
kill them and take their meat.
Chaos erupted from within the hut as the cannibals fought back. Vampire positioned himself between the door, blocking the last chieftain from protecting the Grand Wizard. Unable to defend against 2 aggressors, the Grand Wizard allowed a strike to get through his defense, sending him to the ground, unconscious. "Let me make sure he doesn't die," Night Fury said, kneeling down to treat the Grand Wizard the best that she could. "There's probably a bounty for his second in command," Vampire noted. "Let's take him too." The trio made their way out of the Grand Wizard's hut and stopped a short distance from its entrance. Some of the cannibals that the group took out were starting to recover from their wounds and crawling to the aid of their friends. "We better move, lest we have a horde of angry cannibals after us," Night Fury advised. The sun was starting to set as the trio headed up the hill towards safety, putting their backs against the city they just raided successfully. "With the bounty of these 2, we'll have enough to enter ourselves into the Great Hunt," Cryo Assassin announced. Cryo Assassin had been bugging his sister about the famous bounty hunting tournament held once every year. Hunters are assigned to eliminate certain threats in the land to determine who the strongest hunters are. Eventually, the hunt pits bounty hunters against one another until there are no hunters left. Winners of the hunt gain fame across the land and great wealth. "The strongest bounty has never been claimed," Cryo Assassin said. "Imagine having the title of Master Hunter and people recognizing you everywhere you go." Night Fury listened to her brother as he went on about the Great Hunt. It's true that the title of Master Hunter had never been given. Only the hunters who managed to capture the Bugmaster can claim the title. He was, after all, the most dangerous criminal who has killed hundreds of people, maybe thousands. It was said that he can summon skin spiders to do his bidding. Some people say he's a god who's unmatched with a blade, and others say he is the last of an ancient race. Anyone who ever tried to capture him was never seen or heard from again. Night Fury had heard all the stories before, and perhaps there was some truth to it all. Night Fury and her companions had returned to their camp where they could rest before continuing on. Their camp was situated at the top of a hill in a defensible position. More importantly, it was out of sight from prying eyes. Vampire limped his way towards them. "Well, they aren't going anywhere. We'll be able to get some rest without worrying about our bounties running off. Or slitting our throats in our sleep," Cryo Assassin grinned. Night Fury was tired. "Let's get some rest. Tomorrow we will reach World's End and receive our bounty for these 2. Cryo Assassin and Vampire nodded and headed towards their bed to rest, leaving Night Fury trailing behind them. The campfire crackled as it emitted its heat over the trio sleeping quietly beside it. Despite the occasional scream in the distance from the shrieking bandits, the companions slept with little interruptions. Vampire thought it was necessary to bind the cannibals' mouths to prevent them from calling out to any passerbys. Little did the companions know they had been followed and watched from a distance. The shadows from the figures emerged in the distance as they approached the position that overlooked the camp. The group stopped a short distance from the camp and stood silently, watching, waiting. The masks that covered their faces were made from skulls. It was a look of a menacing group, not to be trifled with. Motioning with her hands, the leader gave the signal to attack. The masked group charged down the hill towards Night Fury and her companions. Attacking in unison, the masked group sliced at the sleeping companions. "We're under attack!" Cryo Assassin yelled, deflecting a blow directed towards his head. Night Fury and Vampire both leapt to their feet, swinging their swords wildly in front of them to keep their attackers at bay. Vampire could barely keep up with the onslaught of attacks from his aggressor. A bolt from a crossbow struck him in the side, sending him into the dirt. "Who are you?" Night Fury screamed, wanting answers. The leader, a green-haired woman, sliced Night Fury in the stomach, sending her backwards in pain. Regaining her composure, Night Fury went on the offensive, slicing the woman across the arms. A second assailant joined the fight, slicing at any opening Night Fury gave her. Throwing a glance towards her brother, Night Fury screamed. Her brother was riddled with bolts, but still managed to put up a fight. Night Fury swung wildly, trying to catch the green-haired woman off guard. An assailant from behind struck Night Fury in the head with the hilt of her weapon. Darkness overcame her as she fell to the ground, unconscious. Witnessing her sister fall to the ground, Cryo Assassin rushed to attack the two she was fighting. A bolt from one of the assailants pierced Cryo Assassin's helmet, killing him instantly. When the battle was over, the skull-faced assailants patched up their wounds and rummaged through Night Fury and her companion's belongings. The green-haired woman in charge stood clutching the stomach wound that Night Fury gave to her. "Go get the Grand Wizard and his chieftain," the skull-faced woman said. "They are our bounties now." As the sun came up the next morning, the masked assailants left the camp, taking the Grand Wizard and his chieftain with them. It was midday and Glitch needed a rest. Since he had rescued the fisherman's daughter and Dreg, he decided to head north through the Shrieking Forest up to the Iron Trail. From there he headed east through the Cannibal Plains. It was dangerous traveling alone, but Glitch never stayed in one place for too long. He was a traveler who enjoyed exploring the unknown. Glitch thought that this steep hill would provide him with a safe place to rest, but it turns out that somebody else already had the same idea. Glitch looked around and noticed 3 bodies lay scattered across the camp. Moving towards the first body, Glitch knelt down to inspect the man's wounds. "Dead," Glitch muttered, looking at the bolt piercing through the man's helmet into his skull. Inspecting the next body of a woman, Glitch realized she was still alive. She had cuts all over her body, but whoever she fought had missed everything vital. After patching up her wounds the best he could, Glitch picked up the woman and placed her in a bed where she could rest. The third man was also alive. A bolt had pierced his hat, barely missing his head. "Huh, lucky," Glitch confessed. Glitch watched over the 2 survivors for a few days while they recovered from their wounds. The woman had been having nightmares, most likely caused from the trauma she just experienced. Night Fury and Vampire had woken up, still aching from the pain of battle. "Thank you for helping us, stranger," Night Fury said. "What's your name?" "Call me Glitch," the man said. "You're both lucky to be alive." Vampire nodded. "We were ambushed by women in skull masks during the night." "They also took our bounties," Night Fury added. "We had just taken the Cannibal Grand Wizard from the city of Deadcat." "That must have been a hell of a battle," Glitch exclaimed, impressed by their prowess. "Sounds to me like you encountered the Skull League." Night Fury and Vampire looked at each other, confused. The Skull League? Glitch revealed more information about their assailants. "From what I have learned in my travels, the Skull League are a notorious group of bounty hunters from the far south. They are a ruthless bunch and will kill anyone who gets in the way of their bounties." Glitch eyed the 2 standing before him. "Somehow, I think they are going to regret leaving you 2 alive." "What do you mean, us 2? Night Fury's eyes raised, looking around. "Where's my brother?" Glitch sighed, wishing he didn't have to break the news to her. "I'm sorry, but he didn't make it." Night Fury shook her head, tears beginning to form behind her mask. No, this can't be. Not my brother, not him. Anything but him." Glitch motioned with his hands to have them follow him to where Cryo Assassin's body lay. Night Fury was in tears, not able to hold them back any longer. Images flashed through her mind of all of the things they had accomplished together, the times her brother joked with her about pretending to be a man, how adamant he was about the great hunt and becoming famous. His dreams had become her dreams, and they were going to accomplish them together. "How quickly our dreams can end," Night Fury sobbed. Vampire always admired Cryo Assassin. He had looked up to him like a brother he never had. If it wasn't for Cryo Assassin and his sister, Vampire would have bled to death in a cannibal cage. They had brought him back from the brink of insanity. He owed the 2 of them everything, and he failed them. "I feel as if I failed him," Vampire cried, looking towards Night Fury. "I feel as if I failed you." Night Fury kept her gaze on her brother. "He was my younger brother. It was my responsibility to look after him and protect him, not yours." The group stood in silence, both Vanepire and Night Fury looking down upon their lost companion. Night Fury had spent most of the day burying her brother under nearby rocks that she gathered. Glitch and Vanepire had offered to help, but Night Fury requested that she bury her brother alone. Respecting her wishes, the two stayed away and gave her time to grieve. Vanepire approached Night Fury as she stood over the mound where her brother was buried. "How are you holding up?" Vanepire put his hand on her shoulder to comfort her. "It will be hard to go on without him," Night Fury said. "I know I'm going to miss his jokes." Night Fury sighed and directed her attention to Vanepire. "There's only one thing on my mind now. The Skull League." Vanepire nodded. Night Fury continued. "I'm going after them. You in?" Vanepire smirked. "I owe my life to you both. Of course I'm coming with you. Besides, your brother would haunt my dreams if I let you run after his killers alone." "It's settled then," Night Fury confirmed. Night Fury slung Cryo Assassin's crossbow over her shoulder and looked at the rocks where her brother lay one last time. "I'll be seeing you, brother. Rest in peace now." Night Fury's hand turned into a fist as she brought her attention back to Vanepire. "Let's go hunting."